Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Breaking Down the Political System. My name is Garrett Lafferty. I'll be your host today. It looks like my two co-hosts might not make it today, so I'll just jump right into the topics here. Quick shout out here. Quick shout out to Voluntary Virtues Network. It's growing every day. It's great to see a bunch of people posting videos all the time, and especially you, the viewer. You're making this happen. You're the reason why we do this. We're trying to inform the greater public of what is up with voluntarism and how that applies to things around the world. Let's just jump right into the topics, though. The first topic we have today is from an article by the Telegraph talking about McDoubles. McDoubles are a cheap source of nutrition, according to this article. Actually, this article claims it is the cheapest and most nutritious food in human history. I'll just read off a little bit of it here. Okay, so describing the McDonald's double cheeseburger as the cheapest and most nutritious and bountiful food that has ever existed in human history might seem beyond fanciful, but according to the author of Freakonomics, it is not as absurd a suggestion as it appears. So the article goes into detail about how in the history of the entire world, people haven't had the ability to get this much calories for this amount of money. And I think that could very well be true, and it probably is. If you look at the price of even healthy foods today, it's astronomically higher than these non-healthier foods, right? But the point is that people are still getting calories. They're still eating. They're not starving to death. I think that's really important to note, that even though in today's society we may be eating shitty, we are still getting fed, right? There's people out there who can't afford to even eat anything. Even in the first world, even in Canada and the US, there's still people that are hungry day to day, but it's less apparent here. One, because we have more money to spend, and two, because our food is actually reasonably cheap when it comes to things like getting the right amount of calories. So the double cheeseburger provides 390 calories. I'm quoting here from the article. This double cheeseburger provides 390 calories, 23 grams of protein, half a daily serving, 7% of daily fiber, 19 grams of fat, and 20% of daily calcium, all for between $1 and $2, or 65 pence and £1.30, the time reported. So where I live, it is $1.39 in Canadian dollars for a McDouble, and I eat those on the regular. They are a great source of calories if you're trying to bulk up or you're trying to get food in you and you need that extra meal, but you haven't prepared one at home, or you need, if you haven't prepared one at home, and I was trying to say something else there, but I think that's about the only thing. The only other option I would say that would be cheaper is, yes, preparing things at home, like rice and whatever, choose your meat. That is probably cheaper, but the fact that it's made for you is the difference, right? It's there, it's ready, and a lot of people they might not even have a kitchen to cook rice in. You need to boil the water and all that, right? But if you're homeless and somebody gives you $2, you can go and you can get yourself 390 calories if you want to call that a meal. So I think McDonald's doesn't get as much credit as they deserve. I was going to also talk about how probably the price of McDonald's is lowered because, well, they're huge. They have a lot of customers, so they can produce it in bulk. So people will always be buying it, so they know they can have a lower price, high demand, I guess you could say. But also the fact that they use GMO products. GMO products having since their invention have been increasing yields of crops, increase yields of I was going to say yields of cattle, but that doesn't really make sense. They do use probably hormones and things with their cattle as well, so that it may give them their advantage there, right? So that's where the unhealthy part comes in. But the point is, it's still food. You can still put it in your stomach, and it'll give you that bit of energy that you need to survive. Yeah, I don't know how much else I have to say about that topic. If you guys have any more questions about that, if you want to see anything about that, just leave a comment here, or I guess I didn't do a shout out to my page yet. It's called Fuck Politics on Facebook. So go ahead and check that out. And the other two people that are on the show usually are also admins on that. So they'd be able to help you or answer some of your questions, or possibly engage in a critically thinking conversation over something along those lines of McDonald's and cheap food and GMO products and yeah. So a local radio station that I've been tuning into for the last couple weeks now has upgraded their signal to 18,000 watts. It's the largest community radio station in all of Canada. It's called CJSW. So while this is going on, they have been talking or announcing every 15 minutes that they're at this new 18,000 watt level, and that they're testing their system. It's not because they want to promote the fact that they've gone up to 18,000 watts a lot. I'm sure that helps, but the CRTC is actually making them do that. The CRTC is the regulatory agency in Canada for the radio. So you need to be licensed to be on the radio, right? And I think that that's bullshit. I think that this station is a perfect example of why we shouldn't be. Because they're a community radio station, they're not for profit, right? They don't have to pay for each song when they play it. There's no royalties because they're not making a profit off of it. I think that this goes along with the intellectual property argument that intellectual property is bullshit and people should just be able to play songs all they want. So if you didn't have to get licensed and you could play your music over the airwaves, think about that. You could have hundreds of different stations, right? They could each be playing what you wanted to hear and not just the same 5 songs because they're too cheap to pay for anything else. CJSW is great. They will take requests all the time. They'll play things, you can tell kind of they're playing it off YouTube sometimes if they can't find it. It's almost a free market for your music listening needs, but it's not, right? It's only the one station, and it's it's paid for with community dollars, right? So it is kind of, I'm sure it's in some ways subsidized by the government. There's no doubt, because it is belonging to the University of Calgary. I could be wrong there, but it wouldn't be that unlikely. Yeah, so if I think of a world where anybody with enough money to buy a radio tower or even a small transmitter could have a local community-wise station, say for your local community where you're living in your city or in your township or whatever. You could easily do that without having to get licensed. I think the licensing, it hinders the music experience that we all crave, right? We all crave having great music play all day. That, sure, you'll hear some of the same songs, but not all the time, right? You don't want to hear the same 5 songs just because they're trying to push that album sale. And I think that radio will have its second day if this happens. If licensing is become more lax, or if it's if it's gotten rid of it entirely. The people there's a Queen song that I'm trying to make a reference to, Radio Gaga. It kind of talks about how the radio could have its second day still, right? It could have, people are saying that, yeah, the music videos have taken over, but that's not true, right? People are still listening to the radio. They're listening to satellite radio. But I think that if more people could just play the music that they wanted to play, or listen to the stations that they wanted to listen to, without having the government get involved, we could have a better quality of radio. So let's move on to another topic here. Let me plug in my laptop before it dies. Okay, this is a big topic. The Israel-Palestine conflict going on right now is massive. It's getting a lot of attention, which is great. Oh, okay. Well, sorry, I just got a message from one of my hosts, so it will be just me today, guys. And yeah, so let's move back to that Israel-Palestine. I think that I could do a whole show about this, and it looks like I might have to. There's 50 minutes here to fill, so let's start with the fact that Israel was created by occupying a territory that was already inhabited by other people. Now you could argue with Israel had property rights there before because it's their homeland before the Palestinians. But let's just focus on the people that were actually living there, that were living, right? They were alive at the time that this all occurred. That's dealing with property rights in our past, and that's a more difficult issue to cover, and I'm definitely not qualified to talk about that. So when it was created, it was backed a lot by the U.S., Israel I'm talking about. So the Jewish people of the world needed a place to call home. They didn't have an actual place, so they made a Jewish state. And see, when people criticize the Israel, people think that, or some people call them an anti-Semite, somebody who doesn't like Jews. I think that that's entirely taken out of the equation there. It's not the fact that people don't like Jews; they don't like the state of Israel. because of how it was created. It was, and there's even Jewish people out there who oppose Israel as a state because it was in from the Palestinians and created, and the Palestinians are now today's are now pretty much the kind of the Jewish people of today, if you know what I mean. They got kicked out of their land, so they don't have anywhere to go. There's refugees still from back then who are wanting to return home, but are not allowed to. And you think that, yeah, the Jewish people, they in Israel, the Israeli people, you think that they would be all sharing with the Palestinians, saying, "Oh no, it's okay. Like you, we know that we needed a place, but you guys can stay here." No, that's not what happens. They get special privileges to own property. They get special privileges to refuse somebody uh, patronage, or not patronage, but if they want to live with them, they can refuse, which I don't necessarily agree with, or disagree with. In a free society, you can refuse who you want to, right? But the fact that this state was created through aggression against the Palestinians, and then they even do that where they're not even going to open their doors, is kind of sad. So you look at the amount of military funding that Israel is getting from the U.S. It's more than any other country in the world. And who are they fighting against? They're fighting against Hamas, right, from Palestine. And Hamas is not a huge military, if you want to even call it a military. They don't have a Navy and Air Force, things like that, right? But that's what the Israelis are using against the Palestinians. They've told Palestinians to evacuate their homes because they're going to be performing these strikes on missile holding places that the Hamas have. So basically, they're saying, "Get the fuck out of the way. We got to deal with some shit, or else you're gonna die in our crossfire." And so the Palestinians are leaving. They're going into schools and things like that, trying to remain safe from trying not to become cannon fodder over this senseless war. The Palestinians, or sorry, not the Palestinians, the Hamas are not these good guy freedom fighters either, though. Hamas is using their Palestinian civilians as a shield and a long time, and the Israelis are kind of just saying, "No, we don't even care about that anymore. Like, we're just gonna continue our fight, whether or not they're using them as a shield." So the Hamas is definitely not looking out for the interests of the Palestinians, I don't believe. I can't remember where I was reading this or watching this, but I want to say it's the Corbett report, but I could be wrong. That the Hamas is was created by the U.S. Back in the day, which doesn't really surprise me. That now that the Hamas is wanting, or now that they're bigger and they're too big, they can't control them. That now they've got to be eliminated, right? Look at the similarities between that and the Taliban. When the U.S. funded the Taliban to help eliminate the Russian invasion in Afghanistan, or was it Taliban or was it Al Qaeda? Not too sure on that one. I'm pretty sure it was Taliban. It's either that Al Qaeda. Could be both. Probably both. Anyways. uh, oh, yeah. So 20 minutes in here, and I'm running out of things to talk about. Well, it's better than dead air, isn't it? Okay, let's just go to my Facebook feed here and try and find something else to talk about. Uh, 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 uh. Scroll down here. Whoever's gonna be watching this is gonna hate me and never finish this. But oh, okay. I'll go over a couple posts on fuck politics. I was wanting to do that as a segment, but never got around to actually setting that up. So let's just try anyways. Wing it. Okay, so from one of our admins, Kanuker, on Fuck Politics, he just got back from a 3-day Facebook suspension. Oh my, what did he do? He posted a picture that says, "The Constitution is not an agreement between anybody. It's a unilateral, totally bogus assertion that certain people have the right to initiate violence against others." And that's a quote from Larkin Rose. And yes, that is entirely true. I used to be a constitutionalist back in the day. I used to hold that thing dear to my heart. Even though I wasn't a part of the U.S., I still held the U.S. Constitution as the definer of what freedom meant. And it finally one day dawned on me that, hey, that didn't really dawn on me. It took some convincing from a lot of people like Larkin Rose that the Constitution is not a declaration of, or is not a document that holds freedom at its core at all. In fact, in the Constitution itself, it gives powers to the government to do certain things like taxation and stuff like that. And that's what all constitutions do, not just the U.S. It basically constitutes what authority the government does and does not have. And it is my opinion now that the government does not have any, well, should not have any authority over anything. So if you could have a constitution that said that, then there'd be really no point, right? There'd be no point because in a constitution, you're trying to define the limits of a government. But if you don't have a government to limit, then what's the point? It's basically your just self-proclamation, right? Yourself saying, hey, I don't want to be ruled. I don't want to be controlled by the state or any state. So I think that was a great post from Snooker. Let's go on down the list here. Oh, okay, this one has to be covered. It's a bit brutal, so mind it. This is a post by Only Logic. He forgot to tag it, but I can see because I'm an admin who posted it. Says, "I smell Jimmy's. Be they rustling?" ? There's a picture of Obi-Wan Kenobi. A famous quote from the Star Wars movie is, "These blast points are too accurate for sand people," when they're talking about when Luke finds Uncle Ben and Aunt May dead. Obi-Wan's quick to point out that it wasn't sand people that killed them, it was the Empire. And behind Obi-Wan Kenobi in this picture is a picture of the Twin Towers. Yeah, they went there. don't know how much explanation this needs, but basically it's alluding to the fact that sand people, uh, the terrorists, did not commit or did not fly fly planes into the towers. So as racist as that sounds, look beyond that. It is true though. The accuracy of those planes hitting those towers at that time. Go watch a movie called Loose Change. It'll change your life, or change your perspective on that day, and how the pilots that were trying to fly those planes, or were supposedly flying those planes, the terrorist pilots that took over, they did not have enough training to be able to pull that off. It just, there's one piece of evidence that kind of screams out that the US is really pushing, that it was these people that those people that they've fingered, that they were the ones who committed it. They found a passport on the ground below the World Trade Center of one of the pilots. So imagine this: the plane flies into the building, giant ball of flame that supposedly weakened the steel. That's how hot it was. And the person who was in the front of the plane, their passport somehow survived that fire, fell all the way down to the ground, and somebody picked it up. Like, just happened to be like, oh, hey, look at that. Damning evidence, is it not? Right? You know, like, come on. It's pretty ridiculous. There's theories out there. Some of the theories are that the planes at one point, both planes flew over this same area after they were going off course, and they had realized something had gone kind of wrong. They both flew over the same area, which a well-known Air Force base is. So people suggest that the people that were on the plane were landed there, and two new planes were lifted off from that point, and they went into the air to be flown into the towers. So some people say that was from remote control, and that these planes were military planes. And there's some evidence of that, where there's pictures of the planes flying into the towers, and underneath you can see something that is irregular for a model of plane that was supposedly flown into the building. So, you know, who knows? I can't really get too much into the conspiracy things. That's definitely one of the things. The 9/11 truth story, though, has definitely been one of the most influential things in my life, as far as can you trust your government? Yeah. Okay. So here's another post here. It says local heroes disable speed cameras with paint. So what they did, this is a post by me, they painted over these speed cameras, and like over the lens or whatever, so nobody can get caught. I think that is worthy of an applause. Welcome to the wiserhood kind of applause. We live in a society where people think